everybody ready? Chief is on email.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. Today, we are sharing body-worn camera footage of 2 officer-involved shootings. But today, I want to speak at this moment about December 8th at 4th and Central Avenue. We've reiterated to the public numerous times our new officer-involved shooting protocol, and we appreciate the media for reinforcing that protocol for us. And we are making every effort to be consistent and stay within the procedure. Our goals are to help provide greater transparency and give the community a better understanding of what to expect during these investigations. LMPD's Public Integrity Unit now leads the investigations into officer-involved shootings. LMPD released body-worn camera footage within 10 business days after the shooting. If for some reason we cannot meet the deadline, we will clearly communicate that to the public and the media. We provide updates to the media 30 days after an incident. A copy of the case is turned over to the Commonwealth's Attorney's Office for determination of final disposition. A copy will be provided to Kentucky State Police for a thorough peer review. A copy goes to the Louisville Office of the Inspector General in compliance with our existing Memorandum of Understanding, and I personally supervise these investigations. We owe the affected families a thorough investigation, and we owe a duty to the public to release the video footage while being as respectful to the families as possible. As always, we continue to ask the community to share any relevant information you may have. You are always welcome, and we encourage you to call our anonymous tip line at 502-574-LMPD. Help from our community is always welcome, and we are grateful when people do come forward with information to assist. Now, Deputy Chief Paul Humphrey will walk us through the body-worn camera footage of 4th and Central Avenue.
Okay, as Chief said, this is going to be an update on the shooting that occurred on December 8th at 4th and Central Avenue. The initial investigation began in the area of 7th and Berry on the BP lot, where CID detectives, Criminal Investigations Division detectives, were conducting surveillance on the lot looking for a known suspect, where they observed the suspect involved in this situation. He was observed with a handgun going in and out of the store, and he was also observed in what they suspected to be narcotics transactions. They ultimately followed the subject. He was the passenger of the vehicle that was stopped. They followed him to the area of 4th and Central, right next to Churchill Downs, across the street from Wagner's, where CID conducted a traffic stop. Those detectives are in unmarked cars in plain clothes, but they are clearly identifiable as police, as indicated by their vests, which have police markings on them, as well as the lights and sirens which they activated on their vehicles. Just as a reminder about our body-worn camera, this is an independent view, separate from the perspective of the officer. It has a 30-second buffer, which means there is no audio for the first 30 seconds of the video. A reminder of our safety priorities. This is one of the models that we use when we make decisions, and this is based on all life is sacred. That's a fundamental value that we have, and then decisions by officers are made on who is placed in imminent danger and who has the ability to control the situation. So we go through victims and hostages who have no control over situations, civilians who might be bystanders in the area that might be in danger, but are not the direct targets of the incident, and then officers and ultimate control lies with the suspect at all times in order to comply with commands of the police. There's only one officer who is directly involved in this incident. This is Sergeant Joshua Arnwan. He was hired in 2016 and promoted to sergeant in August of 2023, so earlier this year during the summer, and he is assigned to the Criminal Interdiction Division. Our suspect in this case is Marvin Smith, a 28-year-old male. He has he is charged with wanton endangerment first of a police officer, receiving stolen property of a firearm, trafficking controlled substances enhanced due to the firearm, when he was found to be in possession of methamphetamine, cocaine, fentanyl, as well as charges of fleeing and evading first. Next, what you'll hear is a transmission of the radio of the officers calling off on the foot chase on the radio channel.
Shots fired. 2150. The backside of Wagner's, what are you going to take North Margarita? Car, unit code 3. No, the backside of Wagner's, you know, step page 150. Give me back. 1352. So this is horse. We're on 3rd and Central. 3rd and Central behind Wagner's on the east side of Wagner's. We got the gun secured. Visual suspect in the country now.
So now here are some still shots from Sergeant Arnwan's body camera video to explain to you what you are going to see. The traffic stop gets initiated where you saw on the map, right there next to Churchill Downs. The subject runs southbound on 4th Street and then runs eastbound next to Wagner's restaurant. You can clearly see and you will hear the officers over 15 times just from Sergeant Arnwan tell the subject to drop the gun. You can see the gun immediately with an extended magazine in the pistol. As he's running past Wagner's, you will see where we slow the video down so you can see the gun in his hand. His weapon has a weapon-mounted light on the end of his pistol. That is a clear indicator of which direction the pistol is pointed at the time. And so what you see in the left is a circle around the gun where it's clearly visible. And then on the right, you can see the weapon-mounted light pointed back in the direction of officers who are chasing. After the suspect is initially shot at, he trips and falls and goes to the ground. At that point, officers tell him to surrender again. They give him multiple commands to not pick up the gun. The suspect picks up the gun again, which you can see in the picture on the left, and then ultimately turns again to point the gun as indicated by the light on the right side with the weapon-mounted light pointed in the direction of Sergeant Arnwan. This is another view from a separate officer's video. This officer did not fire his weapon. There was only one that fired his weapon. But you can see on the left where the suspect picks up the gun and then begins to raise it towards officers. And this is one last view of the suspect pointing the gun in the direction of the officers. At this point, Sergeant Arnwan fires again, striking the suspect. The suspect will get up and run, leaving the gun behind. Officers will catch him just a few yards away, and they will begin to start medical treatment at that point. And this is Sergeant Arnwan's body-worn camera.
Get this truck up there in case he tries to do something crazy. Yeah, Jeremy, take the front. Sarge, take the rear. We're all stacked up. right, I'll get next, so we'll do it right here in the lobby. All right, here we go. We're in the far left turn lane. Left turn lane. Let's wait. Jeremy, go ahead and do it. Back up. Line it up. Jeremy, you're good.
Stay in the car! Stay in the car! Don't you drop the gun! Drop the gun! Drop the gun! Drop that fucking gun! Drop the gun! Drop that gun! Drop the gun! Drop the fucking gun! Drop it! Drop it! Drop the gun! Drop the gun, you ready? Get shot! Get on the ground! On the ground! Drop the gun! 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 Keep your hands up! Keep your hands up! Let me help you! Stop! 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 Roll over yourself. Stop.
All my medical kit is in the back seat of my car, or the trunk of my car. That's free safe. Has got medical stuff in it too.
Stop.
Is everybody good?
Yeah.
Officers are good.
You guys give an aid? Is anybody with the other car?
So the suspect in this, Marvin Smith, was treated for his injuries at University Hospital and subsequently booked in Metro Corrections on the charges just discussed. He was in possession of this firearm, which, like I said, had a weapon-mounted light, an extended magazine, and did have a round loaded in the chamber. And as a reminder, when we are talking about use of force by police officers, these are the standards by which the court has laid out that we use to determine what is reasonableness. That is the severity of the crime at issue, the immediacy of the threat, the level of resistance or flight that the suspect poses either to the public or to the officer. So I think you can see in this incident we're talking about, we obviously have a violent crime problem in Louisville. Detectives have to go out and look for people who are in the commission of crimes. Oftentimes those people are armed and these are dangerous situations. You see the officers made a coordinated attempt to stop this person, gave him multiple commands to drop the gun over the course of time. He was given that opportunity, and ultimately this resulted in an officer-involved shooting and his arrest. So we'll take questions at this time.
First shot. Simon Mark Vanderoff, WLKY News. The first shot, was that done because he was pointing a gun directly at the officers, or simply because he had raised it? Or like how much of the gun directly pointed at the officer?
Okay, specifically not being able to answer the specifics of the officer that he gave in his interviews and his statements about the case, but it is pretty clear that from your question of was the gun pointed all the way at officers or was it in the process of being raised, I can tell you that it was you could see the weapon mounted light pointed in that direction, I can't tell you exactly if it was pointed right at the officer or in the direction. I can tell you that an officer does not have to wait to be shot at or to be shot or to protect themselves. So the question was the suspect that officers were looking for at the time Marvin Smith? I do not have that answer. I don't know if this was related to the initial investigation or if he was just observed with the gun and what they suspected to be trafficking narcotics at the store.
Stephon Johnson, WDRB News. Can you talk about the concern if he's running from officers, but he's got a gun and he gets away?
So the concern of whether or not he gets away while he's running armed from officers. So obviously that's not normal behavior, is to run from a traffic stop with a gun. So there is some assumption or a reasonable assessment that this person could be a threat. We have a responsibility to take that person into custody before they encounter someone else and present themselves as a threat to others. Our primary responsibility above ourselves is to protect others. And so running in an area that might have other people. I understand that Wagner's was closed at the time, but you know how restaurants are. They have people working there and things like that at all times of the night, cleaning crews and things like that. So the officers need to immediately take this person into custody. That behavior is clearly dangerous to both the officers and the public.
Can you speak at all to, because you pointed to this, or Isaiah, WHAS 11 News, he had repeated drop the gun so many times. Based on your guys' policy, is there a certain point where you make a decision to say, okay, I've given it all I can? Like what led to the officer in that moment deciding to pull the trigger?
Yeah, so obviously the circumstance changed at some point for the officer and his decision making is your question. And so what is our guidance on what changes the officer's behavior and response? The officer clearly did not shoot this person as soon as he came out with a gun. So he didn't assess that as being a lethal force encounter at that point. And so something changed along the way, and that's part of what the officer has to articulate. And so factors that go into that are not black and white. They have to be based on the totality of the circumstances known to the officer at the time from their perspective. So any information that we get after the fact cannot be used to assess what the officer knew at the time. We have to base that evaluation on what the officer knew at the time. So those factors are going to be something like his level of resistance, which means not dropping the gun, not stopping. The level of effort that we've put into trying to get him to come into compliance, that he's continuing to resist at that point. Do I have any ballistic cover? Is there anything in between me and the suspect that would stop a bullet if he does shoot at me? Are there the possibility that if he goes around this corner, there are people there that I can no longer protect? How close am I? Which means that my reaction time, my reaction gap is now compressed. So when time, space, and ballistic cover are compressed or taken away, those decisions to have to use lethal force now start to rise to the level that we're going to get there. Does that make sense?
Natalia with Wade, did he have any warrants? Was there anything in his criminal history?
So was there anything in his criminal history about what he was involved with before? I don't know about his criminal history. Okay, that's so, yeah. So I'm not going to be able to speak on his criminal history right now. So, not that I know of.
Anybody else have a question?
Dylan Lovin, Associate Press. He lived. Can you say how many times he was shot and what's his condition now?
So I don't know exactly how many times he was shot. I know he was shot multiple times. He is in good condition. He's been released from the hospital. This was, I think, exactly 10 days ago now. He was released a few days ago, transported to Metro Corrections, and as far as I understand, he's in good condition. Yes, ma'am. So what is the status of the officer at the moment? No officers were injured in this, fortunately. The officer is on administrative leave pending the investigation, and he will go through our normal process of dealing with the PIU investigation and the professional standards investigation for the administrative side of it. And he will go through our process for return to duty as far as requalifications, any training that he's required to do as a result. and meeting with a psychologist to make sure that he is healthy to go back to work. And we will make a determination when he gets to go back to work. No, so that timeline is that's something that we've been working on a lot as far as that timeline, and different administrations have handled it differently. We are no longer waiting necessarily for the Commonwealth to have a charging decision, which is what some administrations have done in the past. So we will make an evaluation that will go to our performance review board, which has a set of officers from all different aspects of the department, subject matter experts. They will evaluate it. We will evaluate whether or not the officer can go back to duty and what stipulations we're going to put, whether it's training or anything like that. In most of these situations, we can make a determination whether or not we feel comfortable putting that officer back on the street based on the totality of circumstances. And so we are probably looking at somewhere between 3 and 6 weeks for that officer to be on administrative duty. Now, he might be back at work in a non-enforcement capacity in the meantime. So, all right.
Okay, this time we're going to take a hard stop, 5-minute break. So we can prepare for the next press conference involving the board. Is that going to be over there? Let's just say 127 start with the product. And we're posting that body worn video on our YouTube channel right now.
The first one, this one?
Correct. Correct.
They don't hear. I know when I yeah. Yeah. Oh, there's two. So.
Second angle question my question. I was not here.
So my phone, I can charge it properly last night, and if I go that way, and I'm out in the shop, I went to the mom of the having workers and shop girl. So she was at her shy, so I'm shyly, and I'm like, I gotta go to this restaurant. And my phone's dead, and I'm so bad with directions. And of course, I go the wrong way, and then I had to stop at the gas station to buy a phone charger. Of course, there's no charger in the station car, and it's forever to turn on if I had something.
Phone chargers and SD cards, they should just be everywhere.
They should.
Why are we showing that?
Yeah, like we should have a phone charger assigned to every car. It should say like car, whatever. How about the death? Right? Also, you know what else is one of that answer? Please, I'm in call.
I mean, definitely.
We've lost.
All right, 1 minute warning, same as before. Good.
She's skinny. What are you talking about? I've never wear a shirt like that.
Everybody ready?
Good afternoon again. Thank you for joining us. Today, we are sharing body-worn camera footage of the incident that occurred on December 14th in the 400 block of North 25th Street, which is involving an officer-involved shooting. We will again reiterate, as we did before, to the public numerous times over and over in with we having these officer-involved shootings of our new officer-involved shooting protocol. And we are making every effort to be consistent and stay within the procedure. And we are making great strides in making sure we keep our commitment. Our goals are to help provide greater transparency and give the community a better understanding of what to expect during these investigations. LMPD's Public Integrity Unit now leads the investigations into officer-involved shootings. LMPD releases body-worn camera footage within 10 business days after the shooting. If for some reason we cannot meet the deadline, we will clearly communicate that to the public and the media. We provide updates to the media 30 days after an incident. A copy of the case is turned over to the Commonwealth Attorney's Office for determination of final disposition. A copy will be provided to Kentucky State Police for a thorough peer review. A copy goes to the Louisville Office of Inspector General in compliance with our existing memorandum of understanding. And I personally oversee these investigations. We owe the affected families a thorough investigation. and we owe a duty to the public to release the footage while being as respectful to the families as possible. As always, we continue to ask the community to share any relevant information you can with us by calling anonymously at 502-574-LMPD. Help from our communities is always welcome, and we are grateful when people do come forward and provide information to assist us. Now, Deputy Chief Paul Humphrey will walk us through the body-worn camera footage of this incident. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon. This is going to be an update on the officer-involved shooting that took place on December 14th at approximately 8:45 p.m. at 429 North 25th Street in the 1st Division. We received a 911 call of a person being held hostage at that location, and 1st Division officers responded, and the situation ultimately ended in an officer-involved shooting involving one victim and one suspect being injured. And just a reminder, our body-worn cameras do have a 30-second buffer where there is no audio that will be on the beginning of it. It is an independent third-party view. It is not the exact view of the officer, and the officer's perspective is still a important part of this that is separate from what you see on the body camera, and I will explain how that comes into play here because one of the body cameras does not show what the officer sees because of its positioning. Safety priorities. So I've talked about safety priorities before, and as a reiteration, we start with the values of all life is sacred. Our decisions are based on who is in imminent danger and who has the ability to control the situation. So when we're thinking about a hostage situation, a hostage is a person who has a threat directed towards them and does not have the ability to remove themselves from the situation. That's why it is so important that we prioritize any de-escalation strategies to be to their benefit. Next are any civilians that might be involved, so other people inside the house, people next door, things like that, that we have a duty to protect, but might not have the threat directed towards them. And then finally, we take steps to protect ourselves because we have the ability to protect ourselves, but we have a responsibility to victims, hostages, and civilians first. And the suspect has the ultimate control of every situation. If we make decisions the right way, any decisions to use force are ultimately because of the decisions that the suspect made, and we try to put ourselves in the best position possible if that has to happen. Now, this came in as a 911 call of a hostage with kids in the house. It was not that kids were the hostages, but the female said that her brother had a gun, he had a hostage, and that her kids were also in the house. So when we're talking about hostage situations, we have to define what a hostage is. So this is the definition that our SWAT team uses when talking about hostages. And is the person free to leave? Are they being held by overt or implied force? And so that would be deadly force or the threat of serious physical injury. That is a severe level of threat that the hostage would be under at that point. And then does the suspect indicate that they can or will have harm the hostage? And do they have the means by which to harm the hostage? Or can we ascertain if they have the means at that time in a reasonable way? Remembering that officers do not have all the information available to them at the time that we have after the fact, and they have to act based on situational awareness that they're able to get at the time that they make these decisions. While multiple officers are on scene during this incident, 2 officers did fire their departmentally issued rifles, patrol rifles. They are Officer Shane Edmondson and Officer Jeffrey Goldman. They are both assigned to the 1st Division Patrol, and they both graduated the academy on March 31st of this year in 2023. The involved suspect is Kenneth Clark. He is a 30-year-old male, and he has a fairly significant history, including receiving stolen property, and other charges that he was just let out of prison on in October. The victim in this case is going to be John Robinson. He was a 23-year-old male that is shot and killed by Mr. Clark. The 911 calls from this, what you're going to hear is you're going to hear what we call a 911 hang-up, which means someone calls 911, and before any pertinent information can be ascertained, they hang up the phone. We automatically call back in those situations to ensure that this wasn't just an accident and see if anything was going on. So you will hear that call back. That phone is ultimately disconnected again, and there is another 911 call. During these calls, you will hear the reporting person say that Mr. Clark is holding a gun to this person and he is refusing to allow them to leave, that he is possibly on drugs, and that there are children in the house.
Hello? This is 911. I think I found this number. Do you have an emergency? Yes. What's the address? Can you come to my address? 129 North 25th Street. And what's going on? My brother, I think he's getting some drugs. I don't know. I think he was late or something, but he's over here going to he put his gun. No, he has a gun and he's waiting around and my daughter's in the house. Okay. And what's the callback number for you? Get in the closet. And what's your brother's name? Kenneth Clark. These places that people walking on right now, hello? This is 911. Yes, can you have someone to send to my house? What's the address? North 25th Street. Okay, what's going on there? My brother, he's on drugs and he got a drug poison at my friend, and he will not let him leave out the door. Okay. And my daughter and my niece is in the house. Okay, what's his name? Kenneth Clark. What race is he? What? What color clothing is he wearing?
Okay, so while officers do not hear those calls, that information is relayed via dispatch to the officers. You can hear the volatility going on in the background, and she's relaying that this subject has multiple guns and is pointing guns at people. So he's clearly presenting himself as a deadly force threat to people inside the house. I understand it's hard to hear. Several of these videos are going to be hard to hear. I will do my best to explain to you what is being said if you do not understand it. Next video is going to be body-worn camera of officers making contact with one of the females inside the house. They have been on scene for several minutes at this point, but you will clearly hear her state that the subject is pointing guns, that he is not allowing the victim, John, to leave the room, and that you will hear his state of mind be described in the next two video clips by this female.
It was me. Me and Devin was in there at first. We was in our room. And we heard knocking at the door. Where the kids at? They back. But when we was back there, he came knocked over there.
So three things that you heard there was that she said that he does still have the guns. She said the guns were in his pocket, that there are three people besides for the suspect in the room. So there are two male victims as well as a female that is in the room along with the suspect. What's not here but will be on the raw videos is that one of the males steps out and steps back in. You will see him ultimately get released here in just a second. And she also says that the suspect feels like he is being set up. We don't know in what way, but somehow he feels that the Victim John is the person who is setting him up, and that is what has set him off. So this will be a further description by the female of what's going on in the room. It will cut off at the point where the other male suspect or male victim comes out of the room.
Well, it was, like I said, it was me and her at first. He came, but we noticed he was on something. He was on something different. So he just started talking to him. Tim apart. It was like, that he felt like somebody was following him. He said somebody was in the house. So it was just me and her in the house. At first he was like, he wouldn't let him walk out the door. He came again. I guess he's not cool with the dude that he was hanging with. So he felt like he was setting him up. But the dude didn't come, his dude got dropped off. So
What's his phone number?
Hold on, what's he wearing?
honestly, I don't know. Like they called me from downstairs. I went upstairs. They called me from downstairs, and I seen when he was pointing the guns at them. He told me to sit down. I tried to get up. He told me I couldn't get up.
Okay, so what you heard was her saying that he is pointing guns at them and he is not allowing them to leave. You're also starting to get a picture of the irrationality of the male suspect. What you're going to get from the victim that comes out, officers are going to search him, debrief him, and try to get more information in order to gain situational awareness about what exactly is going on. And what he is going to explain is very descriptively say exactly what he's seeing as far as the suspect pointing guns at the victim's head, saying that the suspect is telling them he is willing to die, that if he sees police or encounters police, that he is going to shoot the victim, the suspect, and basically everybody's going out with him. You will start to see the volatility from the room begin to raise before officers have contact with them.
Step down, keep coming. Keep coming.
You don't want to stop, sir?
All right, hey, stop right there and turn around, face the wall, face the wall, face the wall.
Bring it back there, bring it back here, bring it back there, hands.
Okay, so they pull that suspect down and they're going to debrief him over in the kitchen to get him out of the way where they can make sure that he's safe while they're talking to him.
I tried to talk to him. Yeah, I just promised you one thing. Listen, man, I ain't trying to be no two. Listen to me. He got 2 guns, man. He got them to my dog's head, bro. You fucking like to your dog or your friend? It's not fair. That's my dog. It's my nigga. And this system, he's tripping. He's saying we operate, but we just got her. Literally, he got a total of 3. He got 1 to a head, and then the other is this big sister.
You said he's holding on to it.
He's holding 2 guns to my dog's head, bro. I promise y'all, look, he's tripping. And he's willing to die. Yeah. So y'all listen, no. I'm gonna say my nigga. I mean, my brother. Let me say my brother. My dog, me, my brother. My brother's up here. His big brother got 2 guns to his head. It's like he's ready to die, man. So he's willing, if he sees some police thing, he's willing to die. Instead of he's gonna shut the police down. I try to talk to him. Like, he got him, he's like this. I'm gonna show you this, I ain't got nothing. It's like this. I want to do like this side. If I see him, they going with me. So I just want y'all to know that the door don't got no lock on it. I don't know nothing about nothing. All I know is y'all, these 2 police, I don't know. He's tripping, bro. I appreciate you. Some shit. Yeah. So I know if you see y'all, he's gonna shoot, bro. You see on something like this.
So that victim is not only relaying his interpretation of the suspect's mindset and being willing to die, but actually the suspect's words that he is willing to die and he is willing to shoot at police or the victim. And you have to think, when we talk about totality of circumstances, how that contributes to officers' decision-making in this context. Next, officers, again, still trying to get more information, still trying to figure out who is in the room also. And you will hear the officer describe what he sees on the FaceTime video.
I think I'm just calling her right now. Call her real quick. FaceTime. Yeah, that's you. It's okay. It's not FaceTime. Don't put your face down. I don't want him to think it's on face. Look, the camera. Is he straight yet? How's he sitting? They straight. Let John come out. How you looking? Let me see him. That's why he's straight. Why the hell?
He's got two guns to this thing right now. I'm sitting by him. So she's sitting. How is she sitting in that room right now? She's sitting by the door. Yeah. Okay, so they're across the
Okay, so this is how my room set up. When you walk in, ain't nothing in there, so it's stuff on the floor. But when you walk in, it's the wall. I think she's sitting against the wall. That about the trampoline, so then what the other one across the trampoline.
What's his name?
Mama, prison. Oh, no, this
So in the meantime, officers have requested additional resources from other officers in addition to calling for a SWAT quick react team in order to try to bring more resources to bring this to a situation to an end. You heard the suspect or the victim here that was outside ask if he was straight, and you hear the victim inside say, "I'm not straight. He is not okay," and they are refusing to let him out. You hear the female victim say on that FaceTime call that he is not letting John go. The next clip will be from Officer Goldman's body camera at the bottom of the stairs. So this incident occurs over the course of 15 or so minutes, a little bit more than 15 minutes.
How are you?
That they are